Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 1. Hi guys, Martin here, just jumping in ahead of the podcast, getting started. As you might have already guessed, Boaz has not been on a few of our recent podcasts. Just to say, Boaz is taking a break from the podcast at the moment. He's got a few issues he's dealing with in his personal life, so that needs a lot of attention for him. So I don't know when he'll be back. He might not ever be back. I'm not sure. But hopefully he will later on this year. But I'm sure, like myself, we all wish him well, and hopefully he will come back at some point. Enjoy our Mission Impossible episode. Thank you. Bye. Hello, podsters or podroonies, if you prefer. This episode, as the Mission Impossible franchise is returning to the big screens across the world, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is out for Tom Cruise to do yet more crazy-ass stunts. And, of course, we are talking Mission Impossible films. And frankly, guys, I've got to tell you, I have achieved Mission Impossible because the guests that were booked onto this podcast could not make it. So I asked one of my regular guests that helps me out. He couldn't do it, so I was like, oh, crap, who am I going to ask? As you already know, like, Boaz is taking a break, so I messaged Sam and Calum again, who were on last week doing Indiana Jones films. I'm like, please, guys, help me out, people. And they did, to my surprise. So they're on again. Sam and Calum, how are you guys?
Doing good.
Like a bad smell when you think you've got rid of us. Nope, here we are. Lingering on. No, we're doing good, thank you.
Yeah. That's why we do it remotely. Yeah.
Shit.
So guys, you can talk about your podcast again. And where can we find you?
Yes, so for anyone that didn't hear about us last time, we are One of Us is Bored. We're the professionally unprofessional podcast. We take a very broad table kitchen approach to talking about films. We tend to theme our podcast in terms of every month having a separate theme. So just in June there, we completed World Cinema Month, but previous months have included Nunvember, where we talked about a bunch of films revolving around nuns. Apocalyptic April, which was as peaceful and joyous as it sounds like it would be. And the Birthday Month, which discussed films starring the one and only Jeff Goldblum. So if any of that sort of stuff appeals to you, then you can go and check out our back catalogue, One of Us is Bored, and you can find us on Instagram at One of Us is Bored there, and we'd love to have you listen. There we go.
Cool. The Nun 2 is out soon. I saw a trailer for that the other day. Looks pretty scary.
Do you have it? And you did another November, though.
Yeah. So, guys, Dead Reckoning Part 1 is out. I'm guessing you're not that excited about it, but maybe after you've seen these films, you are now? I don't know.
So we should maybe just give some context for the listeners there. Part of our being here is a little bit of an anomaly, I suppose, just because I had never seen shock. I had never seen a Mission Impossible film until watching the films for this, and I think Sam was probably in the same boat.
Yeah, I'm not really a Tom Cruise fan, so he was like, He gave us a backup option. He's like, do you want to do Tom Cruise films?
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
All right.
I didn't even tell Callum that.
But having said that, after having watched these films for this, like I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do with it going forward. I know the reviews have been pretty good for this new one, I have to say. I think, and I know the amount of money that's been spent on it has increased as well. And obviously there's no correlation between the amount of money spent on a film and how good it is. But they obviously feel confident enough in it to have spent as much as they have, and breaking their own records in the process. So I don't know. I'm curious.
I think budgets as well these days are a ballooned out proportion.
Yeah,
definitely.
Scary.
Which is kind of crazy. We were talking in our spoiler special for Dial of Destiny about the crazy budget on that one, and it's kind of flopping at the moment, really.
Yeah.
That was like 300 million. I'm just like, what the hell? Why does that film cost that much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could be because of pandemic conditions or something, because there were reports during the production of this film, Dead Reckoning Part 1, that Tom Cruise had a bit of a rant at his crew because
I remember
they
that.
weren't, masked up properly and they didn't want to get shut down. So
yeah.
Yeah.
You need like a COVID supervisor now on the sets and all that. Yeah, so that's an extra.
So that could be a reason why recent budgets seem pretty crazy. But yeah, I'm very excited for this one. That some of the stunts that he's shown off in the trailer alone look just crazy. I think for me, this is one of the best film franchises, certainly action franchises at the moment, frankly. And I think if you want to carry on watching the other ones, you guys, I think you're in for a treat. I think
I'm very intrigued to see more of them. I have to say, like, I've been not to give huge spoilers for our opinions going forward, but I've been sucked in. I have to say, like, I'm kind of into that. So definitely.
And Tom Cruise as well has been quoted saying he would love to make, Mission Impossible films into his 80s, like the legend Harrison Ford. His words, even though he's a legend, of course, which wouldn't surprise me at all.
There's no way he won't survive to 80 if he keeps doing them. Like, the stuff that he's doing, it's insane. So
yeah, I saw some video actually online. I don't know if it was for the new film, if it was for one of the older ones, but it was of him doing one of the stunts. In fact, I'm not even sure if it was for Mission Impossible, I have to say, but it was Tom Cruise doing one of the stunts for his films. And he had to go on this bike that went off a cliff, and he filmed it something like 3 separate times or something like that. And you kind of think, yeah, I can see him not making it to his 80s. Just like the pure amounts of like adrenaline that has to go into doing that sort of thing time after time after time. Even assuming everything goes right every single time. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have thought that's good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The insurance on these films.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why there's, because like insuring your main actor when he's going in a helicopter and flying it, and you're like,
Yeah, they certainly don't have enough money to afford Tom Cruise a box to stand on anymore. I don't think they've really done away with that. Right, shall we go with your choice then, guys? What Mission Impossible film did you go with?
We picked the very first Mission Impossible 1996. And the reason that we picked this
makes sense.
Yeah, basically was it made sense from our perspective as well, just to kind of give us a little bit of contextual grounding, but also from a listener's perspective as well. It probably would be interesting to see how our take on it goes from the very first one to one of the more recent ones, and see what changed that we liked, what we weren't so keen on, and so we thought it made like a really good pick just to ground some of the later ones in the discussion. So there you go.
Sure. So what happens in Mission Impossible? Do you want to take this one again, Callum, or do you want to pass it to Sam?
100% he's taking this one.
So like
IMDb is your friend.
Yeah. So there's this team of people, and they're on a mission, but get this, it's impossible.
So directing then,
and then they go on an adventure. Fooled you. Yeah,
nailed it.
So you've got U.S. government operative Ethan Hunt and his mentor Jim Phelps. Sorry, they are on a covert assignment, and they're part of a larger team that's on this assignment. It all goes a bit pear-shaped. Jim, amongst pretty much every other member of the team, ends up getting killed, leaving Ethan as the prime murder suspect. And now, as a fugitive, he recruits Luther Strickel, who's a hacker, and Franz Krieger, who's a pilot, to help him sneak into the heavily grounded CIA building to retrieve the confidential computer file that will prove his innocence. And that is how you do a synopsis, people.
So, initial reactions to this one then, Sam? What did you make of it?
I really liked it. It felt very nostalgic, which is funny because I've not watched the TV series, but you could tell that there was like, a reason why they were showing and why the twists were so shocking. It's because if you'd watched the original TV show, you're like, oh my god, they made that guy the bad guy. Like, wow. No, I was super into it. Tom Cruise has a lot more charisma for me when he's younger. I don't know if he's just been a bit tainted for me when he got older and he got into his Scientology stuff. But I think it's a really charming film. I really enjoyed it. And the action sequences are like outlandish, which is what you'd expect from a film called Mission Impossible. Like, so I accepted it. No, it was really good. It was nice seeing some really iconic scenes as well that are referenced in so many other things, and I just couldn't totally understand what they were talking about. But yeah, it was really sweet. I enjoyed it.
Calum?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to. Honestly, I had it in my head. I mean, obviously the Mission Impossible franchise is popular, like, because it regularly earns a huge amount of money. People go to see them, people enjoy it, and people do like Tom Cruise as an actor as well. But I had it in my head that it was a lot more bland, I suppose, than it actually ended up being. I don't know why, but I just always kind of thought, oh, Mission Impossible, really? Like, so I was honestly pleasantly surprised by what I saw. I would agree with Sam in that the moment where they're lowering themselves to the modem in the CIA building, it's referenced or parodied in so many different things, and even like the old, like the soundtrack to it and everything, that the number of different shows or things that have made use of the Mission Impossible theme tune over the years, all of those different little aspects, they all add up to something that on one level is a little bit, I kind of want to say it's cheesy, but like cheesy is kind of not the right word, because it kind of, it doesn't quite go down the road of being total cheese. Like at the same time, it doesn't take itself that seriously either, which I quite like as well. You've got like the helicopter going down the back end of the train, and for example,
train
like
tunnel. You're like, what?
It's a bit silly.
It is a bit,
but it's fun.
It is fun. Like it's totally good fun, and I like that. Obviously, later films would build upon the sort of stunts and stuff, but the stunts that they're doing in the first one, I say they seem achievable in some ways. But you know, the wire work of the CIA room, for example, like, you know, in retrospect, when you look at some of the later one, for example, and you've got the helicopter chase. Oh, he might touch the floor from the wires if he's not picked up. That's very low stakes in the grand scheme of things. So with what's to come later, isn't it? Like, it's quite...
Yeah.
It's quite nice in its own way. But no, I liked it anyway. I had a great time watching it.
Yeah, I would rank this first one as my third favourite out of the 6. Yeah, I think Brian De Palma brings a lot of kind of his own style to it, which is great. And what's unique about this one is it's more twisty and turny in this one compared to a lot of the other ones. I think as the films go on, they focus more and more on the action, but Chris McQuarrie, who did the 5th and 6th one, he kind of still brings some great writing in his 2 that he's made, whereas like 2, 3 and 4, they focus more on the action stuff, especially 2. 2 is for sure the worst one. It's just a weird one, the second one.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not going to watch 1, I would probably skip the second one. But he's basically a ninja in that one. It's very strange. But
Is that not where he meets his... Wait, which one does the wife appear?
That's the third one, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was having to Wikipedia where people came from. I was like, right, Simon Pegg, when did you appear? You know what I mean? Yeah. When did you appear? So yeah.
Hey, I'm James Lovino, and I'm here to tell you about Alternate Sides, a movie podcast with a twist. I've worked in the film business for 2 decades, but I haven't actually seen that many movies, and this has been driving my frequent collaborator, Sam, a self-confessed film snob, crazy. So every week, while he's stuck in his car trying to avoid getting a parking ticket, thanks to New York City's alternate side parking regulations, we discuss a classic film I've finally just gotten around to seeing. Alternate Sides, a new podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship, wherever you get your podcasts.
Cool. Yeah, so I really like this one still. I think there's a lot of aspects about this that really hold up still. So directing then, the pre-credits scene in Kiev is very simple, where Tom Cruise is in a mask pretending to be someone else, and all they need is a name. That's it. And it's all very elaborate, but I think it's only there to remind you that this is based on the TV show, you know, to kind of suck you in there. You know, they're either just getting that scene out of the way because it doesn't really relate to anything else. Maybe it's there to catch the audience out that they've done the mask gag already, so they're not going to do it again. But of course, they do it right at the end. So it's a little, like, very, very short pre-credit scene compared to a lot of the other films where it's mainly action-based in the sequels. I think it's just really there to just say, yeah, we're not forgetting about the TV show.
Yeah, I think it's a nice transition between the two. And I mean, I say this as someone who's not familiar with the TV show anyway, but I can imagine that would be a nice interlude between fans of that and, interested parties who are wanting to see what this is all about. And it sets the tone kind of nice as well, I think. I think it's a great way to start off.
Yeah, I think if you're thrown into action, sometimes it's a bit overwhelming. Like, I think actually in the later one that I watched, I'm not going to spoil what you chose, I was a bit overwhelmed with what was happening on screen. I was like, there's a lot for me to... I mean, I was already overwhelmed because I didn't know what the hell's going on because I've not seen the others. But I was also overwhelmed because I was like, oh my gosh, there's too much to look at. Whereas this one, you're kind of eased in a bit, which is kind of nice. Well, it was for me anyway. I guess people who are really, really into action, like if you like the Fast and Furious series, you'd probably prefer to just be thrown right in. But for me, I don't typically watch that many action films, so I like being eased in, and then I'll go into it. I like it when it happens. But
I wonder if there's an element of that just because they are obviously setting up their cast of characters at this point. So if you jump into an action-heavy scene right from the start, then you don't know who anyone is or anything like that. I think the later films probably benefit in some ways from action-heavy in that you already know who Ethan Hunt is at that point.
You can afford to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely.
The Prague scene at the start is really interesting on multiple viewings, like seeing the other IMF team in the background of shots at the party. But the mission is going quite smoothly until they have a little trouble getting back up the elevator. Then Jim has to like intervene with it on his computer. Right there, you have your first clue that it could be Jim. He could be dodgy. Because when things start to go wrong, Jack is the first one to be squished by the elevator. Then Jim tells us that he's being followed, but we never really get a sense through the direction that he's being followed, which I found interesting. The way Brian De Palma captures the dark streets of Prague is great, I thought. But I'm not sure how Sarah gets killed when Jean Reno is behind the gate. Like, unless he's got really long arms, then fair enough. But yeah, that was the only bit where I was like, surely Sarah should have got out of that alive. I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit. I love that whole sequence of them in the area with all the guests everywhere and the slick transition between I suppose the communications between your person in the lift and everyone else, and you've got your two outside who are, I suppose, playing the roles of these lovers outside, trying to not raise any attention towards themselves. I thought like the way the whole operation was played out was honestly really well choreographed, because I think creating a scene like that in itself has to be really, really difficult as a writer, as a director, to try and put something together like that seems kind of believable, but also at somewhat of a quick pace as well. You don't want something that's going to be dragged out for longer than it needs to be, but you also don't want to rush through it to the extent that the audience can't keep up with what's going on. And I think that it was paced incredibly well. I think that it was written well, and it was also quick enough that even if you were keeping an eye yourself on characters in the background, you might not necessarily pick up that they're looking in the direction of one character slightly too much longer than would maybe be appropriate for what's going on. I think when you have the moment where everything does start to go wrong, where your character has been crushed in a lift, where you've got your other character saying, I'm being followed, whether or not he is or not, as a film watcher, there was an element of like, right, well, what is going on here? And like you start to, I suppose, get caught up in the panic that the characters themselves are feeling. I just think it's really masterfully done, honestly.
And also, I think like the balance of giving each of the team members enough screen time without losing focus on the main characters was really well balanced as well. Because you could easily go into watching this scene in particular, and be like, oh, I forgot that person was part of the team. Where did they come from?
Yeah, as a new watcher as well, though, because I think that is another challenge that you have, is you have the death of a lot of these characters reasonably early on in the film. And your challenge is to make the audience, if not care themselves, believe that Ethan has a reason for caring. Like, it's killing off a character is all well and good, but if your audience doesn't really have a connection to them or doesn't understand the impact or the levity of the death of this character, then it doesn't necessarily translate into anything that meaningful in the end of it. But I think what we have here is it's the whole team near enough being wiped out in one go, slowly but surely. And to be honest, I believe the levity of the situation. I totally bought into it.
Controversial, though. Like, see, I didn't really care when they died. I was more... Right, no, this sounds bad, right? But see, the original TV series, from my understanding, is the first couple of seasons was you had Phelps there anchoring you, and then you had some guest stars, and you had a couple of, like, it's like SNL. You had people coming in and doing their part, and then leaving. So I just kind of took it like that. I was like, I didn't really think that they were, like, a permanent team based on the TV show. I just thought they would just be selected for certain missions, and Phelps chooses who does it, and then... I mean, yeah, you'd be sad if everyone died, mostly because you're going to fail. Like, I think this is why I like the first one, because Ethan was so mercenary. You know what I mean? He didn't really care. I guess he does care for Luther towards the end, but for the most part, he's just like, whatever needs to be done to do it. I was fine with that, because I was just enjoying an action film.
I mean, he did have a bit of a reaction when he was the sole one, as far as he was concerned, plucked and told to go and meet the other agent at the restaurant that was...
Kittredge.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there was a bit of a reaction there, but there was also this element of, you do kind of have to just get on with things. But I also think it's maybe a little bit shocking in some ways it's maybe shocking for the audience member as well, because, when you go into an action film like this, again, it's to do with what expectations we're trained to have. And maybe because it's early on, we don't necessarily have those expectations, but in almost any other Hollywood film, your agents would go in and complete the mission. It wouldn't be that, like, the vast majority of them are wiped out for various reasons. Like, so I don't know, it does subvert expectations somewhat, I think, which is interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you got the feeling that they were kind of connected, but I still, I was just like, interesting ways to die. It's kind of like watching Final Destination in a way. I'm like, hey, he's died that way, he's died that. I got that Ethan was sad, but I didn't think they were, like, best friends. I know they had some camaraderie in the meeting, but I did just purely because I'd read what the TV show was like. I just assumed that they'd just been brought in, and you're like, how you get along with people on a work job, like that kind of level. So when he was like, my whole team, they're dead, I was like, why do you care that much? Like,
we don't know how many, like, missions they've been on together, really. So I mean, for some of them, this could be their first mission. I mean, like, for someone like Hannah, that character, like, she doesn't have that many lines. Really, compared to some of them. No,
I'm gonna be honest as well. I was when you're like, you have to make sure the audience knows who's in the team. There was points where I was like, you're wearing an outfit like a disguise. I have no idea who you are, because we'd only seen them in that one meeting,
Yeah.
And I kept losing track of who was who, because it was like the women were like, they kind of looked similar. Like, it wasn't like they had a brunette and then like a blonde, or they had, it was just 3 white women, or was it 2 white women? I don't know. They looked really similar to me. So when they were moving from person to person, the only thing that helped me was their wigs and their location and who they were talking to.
Yeah, I get that.
But I still really enjoyed that scene. I will say I loved that scene. That's the sort of thing you want to see from a heist/spy film. That was perfect for me. More of that, please. Like, I was a bit disappointed when in the later one that wasn't there. I was like, oh, I want my coordinated heist.
So skipping to the end a bit, like, the high-speed train scene is quite fun. A tad CG heavy and quite silly at times, where the helicopter flies into the tunnel and gets attached to the train while in the tunnel. A bit far-fetched for me.
It's Mission Impossible, dude, not Mission Difficult. Like, you need to have some impossible element in there.
Yeah. I mean, where it gets really silly, though, is when, like, Krieger decides to try and kill Ethan by tilting down the helicopter and trying to chop his head off with the rotor blades. I mean, of course, it's going to, hit the tunnel.
Yeah, pretty bleak way to die, though, if it worked.
I mean, there's even a moment where, like, Tom Cruise seems to just fall off the train, but somehow still hangs on. But I did like the end where the helicopter kind of crashes and the rotor blade, like, slowly nearly taking his head off. That in that way, that was quite effective for that end, where it's like right, and it lands near his throat. So that was fun.
What a twist it would have been if they just, like, decapitated him.
Yeah.
And that was it. What a twist. The series is so different.
Yeah, Brian De Palma secretly hated Tom Cruise throughout working on this film. Yeah, I'm going to kill you at the end.
Oh, I didn't mean like murder him. I meant like in the context of the story.
No, I mean literally, even just killing him in the film.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm ending your franchise here.
Yeah, not ending your life. Yeah.
No one wants to see Brian De Palma go to prison.
No. I do like that train sequence. So I like, to be honest, I like the lead up to it as well. When you've got the conversation between some of the characters on the train, look under your seats sort of thing. All of that sort of very.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Very spy sort of stuff going on, and then you've got I have to say, I don't know how I feel about the escape to the roof, because on the one hand, I was looking at that thinking, this is such a bizarre thing to say because this is not true whatsoever. But like, it's kind of nice to see an escape onto the roof of a train that's somewhat realistic. It's not realistic at all, but like in the sense that he was getting battered around by that wind. Like there was no like it was like the number of films you'll see where they go up onto the roof of the train and they're just like they're
stood there like that.
There. Like, I was like, it's nice to see. There's the one guy with suction cups and like he's got his bloody jacket that he can't quite get off and it's getting stuck in the wind and stuff. It's like, you know what? Like, good for them for doing that at least.
They're trying to find realism where they can.
Yeah, I'm trying to find realism where I can too. But yeah, it's I like that. I do enjoy the helicopter chase at the end. It's good fun, even if it does. Even if the helicopter going at the same speed as the train fucks with my brain a little bit. Like when it goes hurtling through the tunnel, I'm just like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
No, all of that's really, really good fun. And actually, you know what? We funnily enough, we were talking about this the last time we recorded one of these, like CGI versus practical effects. This has to obviously be a CGI. There's no way you can practically do this in 1996, especially. The CGI, I actually think it's not held up amazingly well, but it's held up enough that you can go with it. Like you look at it and you're like, okay, it's not great, but it's not distractingly bad either.
It's not Phantom Menace levels of bad.
Yeah,
Polar Express, it's fine.
Yeah. So that's my take on that bit. But yeah, no, I like it. I love that scene.
Favorite shots or scenes, Sam?
Oh, probably I've stolen Calum's. Me and Calum have discussed which our favourite scenes are. It's the one where he's going down, dangling. The most iconic thing about the entire franchise, I'd argue. I say I argue. I've only seen 2 of the films, so I can't argue well.
No, I think you're probably right. Like that's one of the most iconic scenes still, and for me, by far the best scene is that Langley heist. It's quite drawn out, actually, and there's a bit of humor in there just to balance it out a little bit, where the CIA agent is throwing up in the bin and then in the bathroom, in and out of the secure room. But the team take their time getting to like the highly secure room. Like everything is going fairly smoothly, and they deal with some of the security measures nicely and methodically with like the laser net. That was cool. And whereas most systems are all in play in the room, and I like how they keep switching to like the temperature meter and the decibel meter just to keep you guessing a little bit where the real problem is going to occur. Yes, when Kruger sneezes, you think that's just a warning about the noise meter, but then you see a rat coming, which
not your favorite.
No, sets Krieger's sneezing off big time. Then you get these brilliant shots of Tom Cruise with his arms and legs splayed out, trying not to touch the floor. Then quite quickly you've got like the dripping of sweat coming off his glasses, the rope scraping against the vent. You got the temperature going up fast, and the CIA agent is coming back in again, like all happening in quick succession. Then the heart in your mouth moment happens when Krieger accidentally drops the knife in slow motion as the guy is opening the door. So, you have all these elements coming thick and fast. Easily the best scene for me.
Yeah, I would agree as well. It's my favorite. However, so I'm not going to like repeat anything that anyone else has said here, but I do have a little nit to pick, if you'll indulge me. So,
come on.
So maybe it's just me. But the security process for this room, so it goes.
It's very OTT. Yeah.
Well, it is, but it goes voice identification, PIN number, retina scan, key card. Now, keep in mind, I know this is 1996, but if you were going to have all four of those, I would have thought the two weakest would be the PIN number and the key card. So would they not be better off being your first? Like, starting off with voice identification, it's very hard to replicate someone else's voice. Like, that's not going to be something that you're going to be foiled on very quick. And like, we all like PIN numbers. There's a reason phones more often than not don't use PIN numbers now, because they are very easy to steal. So 1996 security maybe was a bit different, but and then a key card being your last thing. They've scanned your bloody eye, but then they're like, you know what, you need a card now. Like
yeah, sorry, I can't let you in.
It's elaborate, but it's annoying about that poor guy who's just doing his job every day and he has to do that whole sequence every time he goes into his office. I would lose my mind.
You get a slight cold.
These films make me feel really stupid though, like really silly. No, because they're making all these connections and all these plans. I wouldn't even know how to begin to break into like a paper bag, never mind an office. Like, and
no.
So every time they're like, oh, of course it must be this. I'm like, how do you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really go into any particular scene, like a planning scene of how they're actually going to do it, which is interesting, yet it still kind of works really well. So they don't really play with that device.
No, I think planning it would take hours.
Yeah.
So you'd have to, it'd be really boring. We'd just be watching them have this meeting.
Well, I mean, you do have Tom Cruise saying about all the traps, but you never really know how they're going to get past it. So I guess that's where all the kind of the tension comes from. So you have an idea, but you have no idea how Tom Cruise is going to do it.
It's so 90s that they have this disc as the list.
Floppy disk.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it'd be easier to just not have a disc. It'd be more secure if it wasn't on a disc, surely.
Directing score, guys, what are you going for?
I really like this. I think directing wise, I think the opening sequences in terms of, you know, the heist, and I think the planning and the way things are laid out, I don't know, I would go quite high with this for directing. I feel...
Should we go like maybe an 8 because it's a homage to the thing?
Yeah, I think an 8's a solid place to put this, I think.
Yeah, because I feel like it's a good transition from TV to film, having never seen the TV series or watched many of the films. I think it's a good transition. So I think an 8's fair, because it's not...
Do it, 8.
Cool. 8?
Yeah.
Bang on 8?
Bang on 8.
We're doing our bang-ons.
Cool.
Yep.
For me, I think Brian De Palma does a bang-up job here. I think with De Palma in general, you don't particularly associate him with this type of franchise, so it's really interesting that he went for this type of film in the first place, and he does a great job, really. You know, he does some really kind of weird Vaseline shots, I guess you could call them, where you've got some people right in the foreground and others right in the background. He still uses that kind of technique, whereas in this era, in the 90s, that no one really went for that still. And he has some like really crazy Dutch angles sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially in that aquarium cafe scene.
yeah, it's very like...
Yeah, which is kind of cool. It's just a shame a little bit with that last sequence. For me, it's just a bit too silly.
What do you want him to do? Put a helicopter in the tunnel for reals?
Well, yeah, or just think of a different way of working out that scene.
Yeah.
Practically, because if you look at all the other films, they really try and do it practically, and it's clearly not in this one. So that's a little shame. But so I'll go like an 8.3, I think.
Yeah. I wonder if, to your point there, they maybe, this is me telling someone else how to direct their film, but I wonder if they maybe should have ended the scene before they hit the tunnel. Like, you know, just because I think it's when it goes into the tunnel that it starts getting a little bit off the rails, so to speak. Like, it just starts getting a little bit OTT, and I don't know.
It's because it's easy to make a helicopter crash. Like, I know that's... So you don't need to be in a tunnel to make it crash. Like, when it got in there, you're like, you don't fit in here. You just don't fit in here.
Yeah, you could easily have practically the same scene just without a tunnel, I think.
Yeah.
Solved the problem.
That's it. We've solved it for them.
Yeah.
Write them an email.
I will do. Put that on the list. Email Brian De Palma to do a re-edit.
Yep.
30 years later. 25 years later, whatever. Screenplay then. I do love the twist in the Prague scene at the aquarium cafe, where Ethan has just seen his IMF team get killed, and when he meets Kittredge, he spots like the other IMF team pretty much straight away, and you get like brilliant Dutch angles, as I just said, and the way Ethan escapes is pretty fun with all the water pouring out onto the street. Those poor fish, though.
I know.
Oh, I know.
Free fish and chips that night for the checks. But I love how the film takes the focus away from you thinking about who killed his IMF team, because it's a given that Tom Cruise did not kill his team and that he's not the mole. You know, you would normally expect the film to be focused on who killed his team, and Hunt spends the rest of the film like trying to find out who did it. But instead, he's told that the whole operation was a mole hunt. So the film puts Ethan Hunt right on the back foot, you know, not trusting anyone. You know, the only lead he has is Max and Job 314. So I feel like both films as well do a great job in creating seemingly insurmountable odds for your setup of the film. So compared to a lot of the other movies as well, these two in particular do a great job in that sense.
I would say my one kind of con for the screenplay of this film would be that it is a little bit overcomplicated. I really loved the twist. I messaged Calum while I was watching. I was like, Calum, the twists are great. If you watch the original TV series, the twists must be like shocking, like really shocking, because that's your main character. The TV series, bad guy, what? You know?
Yeah.
But there was points where it just felt a bit needlessly overcomplicated. It's like they were trying to make it, you know, smart, and it is an action film. You know, it doesn't need to be like, you know, we have to look at this clue.
So what parts?
Well, there's parts where I got just disoriented. Like the part where they were like the John, you know, the Bible verse, and they were like doing all
Job,
that. Yeah. There was just parts where I was just like, I had to look at the Wikipedia to see what was going on and where we were and who the characters was I was speaking to. I just got like, it's just a lot thrown at you very quickly. So the plot was quite convoluted at points.
Yeah, I wondered if that bit, like for me, and maybe this says more about me than maybe everyone else got this, but I remember thinking, I'm not sure how he's made that leap.
Or when he looks at the Bible.
Yeah, the Bible being removed and moved was like, I didn't get that. Like he would know that was Phelps from that.
Yeah, like I think maybe on a second or third watch, I'd get it. But I think just on the taking it at face value, I was like, I'm not really sure how you would make the connection to that necessarily. And it's partially because, you know, the word job and Job obviously are spelled exactly the same, but written down, you don't know that. So, you know, like hypothetically, I've got a job for you. I've got a like Job being like, or whatever. I've got a Job for you. Oh, I've got a verse for you. Like that doesn't make any sense unless you take some kind of big leap. And I wasn't prepared. At least I wasn't prepared for the leap required.
Yeah.
I guess it suggests as well that Ethan Hunt is quite a religious man.
Potentially.
That we don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that a little bit to a certain extent, Sam. It took me a few viewings actually to totally understand everything.
I'd also like an Indiana Jones map to show exactly where I am at all times.
Yeah.
Because there were like, there's points I was like, where are we again?
Yeah, they do travel hop a lot, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, right, we're somewhere new now.
Right, cool.
Yeah, Kiev, London, Prague.
Yeah.
Langley.
And there's so many twists. Like the amount of twists in it. You're trying to figure out who's a good guy, who's a bad guy. Like I liked that. Don't get me wrong, I did like it. But if you go for a bathroom break, you don't pause the film, you're in trouble. Like you're in trouble.
Yeah, of course. I would never do that anyway, Sam. What are you talking about? No one should do that.
Alas, I was watching with others and I couldn't be like, right, pause it.
Yeah. I love the reveal that Jim is alive and the conversation that follows. Firstly, because you can actually see Jim in the raincoat next to Ethan long before Ethan finishes the phone call with Kittredge. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
I didn't actually, but
no, me neither. I'm not going to pretend.
No, he's literally right next to him.
Oh wow, we're really good.
Yeah, we're good film watchers. Yeah,
here we are.
Yeah, he's literally just on the phone booth next to him, kind of like semi out of shot as well. So you just see like half his body in the raincoat. But then during the conversation, when they're having a drink, Jim says the mole is Kittredge, and Ethan agrees with him. But the flashbacks are actually telling us that it's Jim that took out his team. You know, Jim is looking nervous, and then Ethan says, why Jim? You know, confirming Ethan thinks it's Jim. Then Jim explains why, you know, basically it's about money. But the flashback shows that Claire could have killed Hannah in the car, so Ethan is not sure if she's involved with Jim's plot or not. So I like how the film leaves you with one mystery left to solve going into the final scene. Where does Claire's loyalties lie? So then it's slightly disappointing that they reveal that Claire is in on it with Jim like 5 minutes later. But other than that, I really kind of like that scene. That you're being told one thing from Jim, but like when Ethan is thinking about it, you're seeing his thoughts visually through a flashback, thinking it's Jim. So I thought that was quite clever from De Palma.
Yeah, no, it was cool. But Claire's like an interesting character. But no, actually, so is what Ethan's doing. Like, who, like, your boss has died and you immediately go after his wife.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, come on, man. Like, that's a bit questionable.
And even like the scene at the very start, like, I mean, that's an easy gig, surely, because she's just unconscious the whole time, it seems like. And they literally have to revive her with some sort of adrenaline, you know? And then when she wakes up, that's the scene. I'm like, oh, okay, credits. It's a bit weird.
Nice paycheck, yeah.
Any other thoughts about the screenplay?
It's kind of hard to evaluate a screenplay of an action movie because you're not really doing like the actual like what they're saying and stuff. It is just based on the clues coming together. So yeah, it was good. There was points where I was lost, but I think that's because I watched it one time only.
Yeah,
and I'd never seen it. I had no context of the original TV show at all. So I was trying to Google because I was trying to figure out if Ethan Hunt had even been in the original TV show. By the way, Calum hasn't. It was just Jim, literally just Jim.
Yeah,
good to know.
Yeah, I think definitely this one out of a lot of the other ones, like this has the most rewatch value in terms of that Prague scene of like looking at the other IMF team, and in that shot I just said that, you know, Jim is literally there when he's on the phone to Kittredge. You know, so it does have those elements for a rewatch. So funny lines, interesting lines. The one from Jack near the start, hasta la lasagna, don't get it on ya. That was a funny one. And also in Prague, when Jack is struggling to get the elevator working, he's like, Jack, well, I think we have a Jack, an unreliable fellow, as I recall, constantly late, behind on his work.
See, that would annoy me. That annoyed me. I was like, dude, he's trying his hardest. He's got an easy job. You go do some hacking then.
Yeah.
I just like the throwback to the original series. I liked when they're like, you know, this mission should you accept? Because I just feel like that's such a nostalgic thing. That's so funny that I'm claiming this nostalgia, considering I have no connection. But I really enjoyed, just because that's like a thing that's referenced all the time too. Just that one line, just really iconic.
I liked the line from Tom Cruise where he says, Kittredge, you've never seen me very upset. You know, before he lights up the aquarium cafe.
Ethan Hunt and Luther Stricknell sat outside. I think it's outside the cafe. Ethan says to Luther, so how does it feel to be a solid citizen again? And Luther says, I don't know, I'm going to miss being disreputable. And Ethan says, well, Luther, if it makes you feel any better, I'll always think of you that way. So.
That's a nice end, yeah, for those characters in the film. Everybody has pressure points, Barnes. You find something that's personally important to him and you squeeze. I think my favourite, though, is definitely from Kittredge. I think he's a great villain, bad guy in this, where he says, after the Langley heist, he says to Barnes, I want him managing a radar tower in Alaska by the end of the day. Just mail him his clothes. Well, that was great. Cool. So, screenplay score for me, I think I'll probably still go in the 8s. I think it's one of the most intricate screenplays out of all of them, if not the most, to be honest. Maybe it could have been a bit more expansive in terms of the action of how that's written. I don't know. But yeah, I enjoyed it. So I'll go like an 8.6 for me. One of us is bored. What's your score?
I think 8 is probably a good place to put it for this again, because I like the overall plot. I like the engagement between the characters, and I like the level of the way that the action and everything is choreographed, linking together. Like that's obviously some element of screenplay in that. I like that it's kind of not over the top in the way that, I mean, it does go a little bit later. So I don't know. I'd probably 8 for me, I think. Yeah,
I'm going to go with that. I'm happy with that. I was between a 7 and an 8, so I think we'll give you the benefit of the doubt because it's our film. So 8.
8 for us.
Cool.
Yep.
So acting then. Tom Cruise is very intense in this film at times compared to the other films. Like at 4 a.m. after Ethan has sent loads of emails to Max on the laptop, Claire arrives before thinking it's Jim, you know, and it's kind of odd dream vision type sequence. He throws her across the room and like is very aggressive with her on the bed, and like he couldn't point his gun any harder than he does. It kind of, I guess it reinforces this terrible situation that he's in, not trusting anyone. But yeah, he can be very intense in this one.
Yeah, I was trying to work out exactly how high Tom Cruise's star was at the time Mission Impossible first came out. And I mean, I'm just having a quick look. He'd previously at this point been in Interview with the Vampire. He'd been in Top Gun, obviously.
Top Gun's huge, yeah.
Yeah.
Days of Thunder, I believe, as well. A few other known ones as well. So he was pretty big at this point. It's not like this was a establishing role or anything for him. He was pretty well known at this point. I think he's perfectly fine, more than perfectly fine in this, I would say. I think he probably is one of the more standout performances in this for me. I do think that the acting in some ways in this, hopefully I don't get in trouble, but I feel like in some ways the acting in this is maybe like of secondary importance to some of the other stuff that's going on. I feel like some of the stunts are, and like some of the set pieces are more important than the actual acting that goes on. So I thought, for example, Ving Rhames, who was playing Luther, generally speaking, I thought he was actually really, really good. I did think his introduction sequence was a bit wooden though, because I remember like he sat there opposite Tom Cruise, and I was just like, you're opposite Tom Cruise right now, and I'm just not like, it just didn't feel like a real conversation. And it was only like it's literally his first 3 or 4 lines of dialogue, and then after that it was fine. And I'm well aware that these scenes aren't filmed sequentially, so it's not like he was just warming up into the role or anything like that. But for some reason, his very like introductory bit for me just didn't sit very right, and then the rest of it he was great. Like I would actually like go as far as to say he's one of my favorites from the whole thing.
No, same.
But for just that little introduction,
I guess he's just trying to play it a little cool, you know. He doesn't want to like speak out of turn necessarily the first time he meets Ethan. But I guess he is disavowed, you know. He's not...
that's true. Yeah. So I suppose it's not like you would be having a normal conversation. I suppose they're trying to figure each other out a little bit as well. But then you've got Emmanuel Bert, who played Claire. I'm not sold on her, honestly.
No, I don't think I am either, actually.
I think she was fine, but there was something that didn't really connect for me there. Like a lot of the time, I don't know if it's just the way that she delivers her lines or the way that she speaks, but like I kind of had to really focus in on what she was saying a lot of the time, and I thought there's just something about this. Maybe it's the character, maybe it's just the style of acting, but there's something going on here that is not connecting with me, and that didn't change as the film went on, honestly.
No. I don't think she had the required chemistry with Tom Cruise to really sell having an affair either. Like, I just feel like Tom Cruise could kind of be paired off with any other woman in the same way.
I think in the heist scene in Langley, she's quite good. Maybe mainly because she just has to keep very calm and a very straight face, you know, in that kind of office scene where she has to put like the liquid in the coffee, and she has like a little cheeky smile to him when she puts the tracker on his shoulder. But I think as a lot of the scenes, maybe she's overdoing it a bit with the emotional stuff, a bit too uncontrollable, maybe. I don't know. Is that where you're kind of getting at, Callum? Where she's just maybe overacting a little bit?
I mean, maybe. There was a point where, see, this is one of those bits where I'm not sure if I'm like implanting a false memory into what I've watched. I have this recollection. This may or may not happen, but I have this recollection of her saying something like, "I don't understand" to someone like that, and I was like, "That's a bit bloody rich coming from you," because I don't know the way you bloody like you talk like you've got a mouthful of marshmallows. I don't understand you. So it's just. I don't know. I don't know if it's just acting, or maybe it's just the way that like she's decided to portray it, or maybe it's the way she's been directed. To be fair, I don't know. Whatever it is, it didn't really work for me. And
it's that action female inflection where they speak like this, and it's all of this, and you know they talk. You know, there's a weird pacing to it. So if you can't understand what she's saying, I can see. Yeah. But on the other scale, you had Max, who was the best. Yeah. I loved the lady who played Max.
Vanessa Redgrave.
Amazing. The glee when she's on the, you know, ripping the thing off the train seat. I really enjoyed her.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I liked her. Yeah, she was great.
Just kind of cast against type, I guess. She's this big, arms dealer, and you see, this thespian Vanessa Redgrave turn up. You're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Brings something very different to this type of role. And I think also with going back to Tom Cruise, he kind of has like a bit of a playful side too in this film. Like at the beginning, he's like complaining about the coffee in this funny way, and in London when they get back, after they've stolen the knock list, Kruger thinks he's got like the real one, but Ethan does this like magic trick, sleight of hand, with the disc that he thinks is real. Again, like Tom is really playing up to the camera, and Krieger, like, it's quite entertaining, that bit. I thought it was great.
I kind of like the magic trick shtick, but the final incidents of it, when they're on the train and he throws his glasses and the guy's like, wait, what? And then he punches him in the face anyway and knocks him down. I was kind of like, well, that was a bit pointless. That felt like a bit of a wasted opportunity there. Like, it was just like, look what I can do. Like, yeah, well, very impressive. But
it was so Kittredge could see that Jim is alive.
Yeah.
So
that's a whole series, Callum. It's Tom Cruise saying, "Look what I can do! Look what I can make happen." That's a whole Mission Impossible series.
That is the brand. Yeah, totally.
That is the brand. It's as you said, Callum. It's like perfectly acceptable acting for what is needed. It's not like they're going to win like an Oscar for it, but they don't want to win an Oscar for it.
No.
It's perfectly acceptable action acting. You do not need it to be perfect. It's very charming in this first film.
Yeah, I was wondering, was this nominated for anything? Apparently the soundtrack was nominated for a Grammy or something, but I don't think the film itself was nominated for...
Let's see if it's nominated for Best Acting Oscar, Callum. I'm going to leave. After all that. You're going to have to cut something. I can't say.
Yeah.
Please don't look that up.
No, I'm not sure it was. I can't see much, but yeah.
No.
If it did, like, we could win an Oscar for our films. Like, seriously.
Oh, yes, definitely.
But it was perfectly acceptable. You're in an action film for the action. You're not really there.
Yeah, no, totally.
I mean, there was a really good, as we said, a good story, but, like, you're not in it to watch him act. Mm-hmm. You're in here to watch him throw himself up a building. That's fine.
Yeah. Favorite performance then, guys?
I probably would stick with, I feel like it's quite subtle and he's not got a big role for this, but I think for me, like, Ving Rhames as Luther, honestly, that I think he gets my vote.
Yeah.
Just very, very likable portrayal. And I like the character as well, in the way that he, I suppose, the back and forth that he has with Ethan Hunt as well. I think, I don't know, I just like that combination. I think that works.
They had chemistry, they did.
Yeah, the buddy chemistry.
I was really pleased when I found out they were in the other film. When I googled Luther, I'm like, oh, he's in the others. I was really pleased. I was like, this is good.
Yeah, totally. I was as well. So
yeah, he's in all of them. Yeah, and I would say he's kind of like, certainly in some of them, he's more of the emotional heart as well. In the later ones, maybe in Fallout as well, to be honest, the other film that we're going to talk about. He just brings this like great essence of cool suaveness. He's great. I think I would probably go with Tom Cruise still. I think, I still really like him in the role, even with the first one. But like Henry Czerny is a close second as Kittredge. He's got like a great entertaining villain quality. I can't really pinpoint what it is, but like, it's just some of the line deliveries he has is just so brilliant. It's just said with such glee and menace. It's really great from that guy.
I'm going to say Max because I don't want to say Tom Cruise and I don't want to say Luther because you've all picked a different one now and it looks like I'm picking sides, so I'll just say Max.
So you're Vanessa Redgrave for you.
Yeah, because she was just really refreshing. Like, if I'm going to be a villain, I want to be that kind of villain. Because she's not even that bad. She's just kind of, middle bad.
Yeah.
So acting score for me, I think I'll go a solid 8, I think.
Oh, no point. No decimals.
Goodness.
No.
Oh, no.
We do that sometimes.
I think I would go about a 7, honestly. For me, what do you think, Sam? If you want to go to an 8, we can...
See, I'm kind of biased again. I'm going to be honest. I don't like Tom Cruise, but I liked him in this. I didn't mind him in this. I think that the acting in this one, spoiler, is better than the acting I've seen in others. So I would say an 8.
Mm-hmm. Shall we lift it to an 8 then? Let's just go 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't do decimals. We just have to fight our way to.
Okay, 8 it is.
8 across the board.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, let's add up the scores then for Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible gets 48.9.
Oh, very good.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah, well, all right. Yeah.
It's not Indiana Jones.
No.
But...
Not much is. So.
That's it for part 1. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 2 to see who wins. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off. Thank you.